You're watching Bloomberg Law. I'm Pacchia. We're entering the fifth year of the so-called Great Recession that started with a crash on Wall Street in the fall of 2008. And now lawyers are more than ready to see their personal bottom lines rebound. At long last, there are some signs that, at least at the big firms, and particularly in New York, the recession may be drawing to a close. But is it really the beginning of the end, or just a mirage? Join me now to discuss recent developments and to look into his crystal ball for 2012. We have David Lat, editor-in-chief, of course, of the website Above the Law, which covers the finances of America's biggest firms. David, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me, Lee.
Absolutely. So let's begin with associates. There were some encouraging signs from bonus season in 2011. Are people happy with what's happening out there?
Well, it depends on whom you ask. It depends on whether or not you view the numbers that were just announced in 2011, which were roughly the same as the numbers in 2010 and 2009, as stable or as stagnant. Mm-hmm. So on the one hand, you could think, okay, at least we're not moving backwards. At least firms are still paying bonuses. On the other hand, they fall far short of the numbers that you saw in, say, 2007 before we went into the whole recession.
But firms like Cravath, I mean, the numbers were off the chart from the previous year. Were they just an outlier? Was everyone else kind of more?
In terms of what? The
bonuses from the previous year.
Well, the bonuses from 2011 at Cravath were essentially the same as the ones from 2010. But what's interesting about Cravath is their profits per partner have increased quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think some of the people who have criticized the Cravath bonus distributions have pointed out that the partners are doing much better in 2010 and 2011 compared to 2009, but they haven't shared any of that bounty with their associates. So I think that is how some people are spinning it.
I wanted to talk to you about lateral associate hiring. It remained strong in 2011 after jumping a remarkable 61% in 2010, according to the National Association of Law Placement. Are you finding that law firms are replenishing their ranks with mid-level associates? There was a big culling of the herd, so to speak, back when the Great Recession began in late 07, early 08.
Well, that's one of the challenges of layoffs or reductions in force. You end up with these gaps or these holes in your pipeline. And so last year we saw firms trying to fill those and bring in mid-level or even senior associates, especially those with specific skills in particular subject areas. But the problem is there could probably be even more lateral movement than there is. But because of what we saw in 2008 and 2009 with layoffs, some associates are reluctant to leave. I spoke to one partner who's an antitrust lawyer who said his firm would love to bring in more laterals, but the problem is the good lateral associates, even if they're not 100% happy at their existing firms, would rather stay at a place where they know that their services are valued than go to a new place where they could get laid off if, on a last-in, first-out basis, or because they have some personality clash or some other bit of bad luck. So a lot of associates, I think, are taking a devil-you-know approach and staying at their current firm. So even though lateral hiring last year was significantly up compared to some of the prior periods, it could be even higher this year. It'll be interesting to see.
So bonuses are up, lateral associate hiring is up. What does that all mean for summer associates and first years? Are they necessarily following that trend line basis as well?
Well, the problem, I think, for people like summer associates or law students who want to work at these firms for the summer is it is a lot harder to get into the game. So once you're in the game, things are fine, but firms have really shrunk their associate classes. So if you look back to, say, 2006 and 2007, you might have a firm like Cravath or a firm of a similar level or tier having over 100 associates in New York. Now firms are down to maybe 70 summer associates or 30 summer associates. So I think this is one reason why bonuses haven't really increased that much either. Firms realize that they are still in the driver's seat, and it's still very much a buyer's market when it comes to legal services.
As you were saying before, profits per partner at AmLaw 100 firms are up substantially.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, is that mostly a result of firms being able to find new work out there after the collapse of the market for legal services related to, say, securitizations? Are they able to find new ways to market and sell their services? Or is it about law firms having lower cost basis after laying off so many mid-level and junior associates?
It is more a function of the latter, of cost savings. So if you look at the American Lawyer numbers that were released in 2011, this is pertaining to year 2010, you saw profits per partner at AmLaw firms go up by about 8.5%. But revenue per lawyer, which is really the metric that would relate to some of the things that you were discussing, only grew by 4%. So what's driving a significant amount of the profitability is cutting of expenses as opposed to finding new revenue sources.
So things might be looking up for the biggest law firms, but meanwhile, the controversy, of course, continues over law schools fudging their employment numbers, I should say.
That's a good slip.
I can't let you go without asking you about the comments from ABA President Bill Robinson last week. His organization, of course, accredits law schools nationwide. He told Reuters, and I'm quoting now, "It's inconceivable to me that someone with a college education or a graduate level education would not know before deciding to go to law school that the economy has declined over the last several years and that the job market out there is not as opportune as it might have been, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago." Where do you come down on who's to blame for so many students suffering through 3 years of law school and then facing a dire employment situation? Is it the students' fault, as Robinson suggests, or is it the school's fault?
Well, it's funny. Bill Robinson took a lot of flack in the media and the blogosphere for those comments because a lot of people viewed him as blaming the victim. And I do think that the comments were probably ill-advised. But there is a grain of truth to what he is saying. I do think that law schools need to be more transparent and honest about their employment data. We've written about this a lot on AboveTheLaw.com, where we're trying to encourage law schools to be more forthcoming and to not play the kind of games that historically they've played in terms of massaging their numbers to make it look like their graduates have higher incomes or higher employment rates than they actually do. At the same time, when you look at all of the media attention, not just Above the Law, but, for example, the New York Times has run a series of articles on the situation involving legal employment, you do have to realize that students do bear some part of the responsibility. If you went into law a few years ago, especially if you entered law school before the recession and were still in it during and after, you could understand how these people would feel very upset because it was like the rules of the game were changed midstream. But for people who are going to law school now, if you even just do a little bit of Googling or research, you would see some warning signs. So yes, a lot of law schools still use somewhat misleading statistics to represent their employment outcomes, but people who are going to be critical thinkers and law students should be able to at least dissect or deconstruct some of those. So I still think that the ABA and the law schools need to do a better job of being more honest from the law school's perspective and having tougher accreditation standards from the ABA's perspective. But students should also do their due diligence and their research before they make such a big decision that involves investing 3 years of their lives and $150,000 in money.
Sure, it's a big decision. David Lat, Editor-in-Chief of Above the Law, I want to thank you so much for coming in today, and please come back and see us again soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. If you'd like to learn more about the cases or issues we just discussed, of course, go check out our offerings on BloombergLaw.com and also on the Bloomberg Terminal. I'm Pacchia. Thanks for watching.